Alright, time to talk about Cyclops. To put it in game terms, if the X-Men were Smash Ultimate, he'd be fighter number 1. No, Xavier doesn't count, he's Master Hand. But despite his tenure as a champion of mutantdom, Scott Summers has a maligned and unfair reputation of being boring. The man shoots punch beams out of his face. How is that boring? Besides that, his years of struggling in the face of prejudice and the looming threat of extinction has honed him into an uncanny strategic machine, capable of comprehensive and complex calculations, to say nothing of his legendary leadership abilities. To put it bluntly, Cyclops is kind of a stone-cold motherfucker, and it runs in the blood. Admittedly, the Summers genealogy is not so easily unraveled, involving aliens and time travelers and clones, and I think at least one time-traveling clone, but I'm gonna give it my best shot anyway. We'll start with Scott's parents, Christopher and Catherine. Presumed dead in a plane crash, his parents were actually abducted by a scout ship belonging to the alien race, the Shi'ar. Chris escaped captivity only to discover that Catherine had been forced into the Shi'ar Emperor's harem, which, extremely unpleasant. Catherine was then killed, and Chris was sentenced to work the pits, but escaped again, this time with company, adopting the alias Corsair, forming the group of space buccaneers known as the Starjammers, and eventually finding love again with fellow Starjammer Hepzibah, who for all intents and purposes of this video is functionally Scott's stepmom. Eventually, Corsair and Cyclops found each other again, and Corsair even got to spend some time space pirating around with a teenage Cyclops who had been temporarily displaced from the past. Long story. But Cyclops also has 2 long-lost siblings. His brother Alex was actually on the plane with Scott and their parents when the Shi'ar attacked, but was separated in the aftermath of the accident by none other than evil geneticist Mr. Sinister, in a bid to keep Scott emotionally isolated and eventually harness his mutant power for nefarious schemes. Alex also turned out to be a mutant, with the power to absorb and emit cosmic energy in the form of powerful blasts, and eventually took on the name Havoc. He also joined the X-Men, but his relationship to both them and his older brother Scott can be precarious, and occasionally ends in a fistfight because, well, family. What can you do? There's also Gabriel, the youngest of the 3 Summers kids, and at this point I'm gonna caution that the story gets icky, and if you want to click away, I won't be offended. Anyways, when Catherine, Cyclops' mom, died at the hands of the Shi'ar Emperor Daken, she'd actually been pregnant, and the Emperor managed to save the baby Gabriel and aged him to adolescence. Daken sent Gabriel to Earth with the intent of having him work for his agent Eric the Red, but Gabriel was found by longtime X-Men ally, until recently, Moira McTaggart, who brought him to Professor X. At the time, the original X-Men team had been trapped on the living island of Krakoa, and Professor X recruited Gabriel, now using the name Kid Vulcan, as part of a new X-Men team to rescue them. This did not go well, and the entire team was presumed dead after only managing to rescue Cyclops, who Xavier mind-wiped to make him forget the trauma. Kid Vulcan had survived, however, and returned after many years going by Vulcan. After a furious attempt at revenge and temporarily taking over the Shi'ar Empire, among other things, he's now hanging around on Mars, which the mutants have terraformed, and wow, this is actually going way longer than I thought. I barely even have time to talk about Adam X, the genetically engineered child of Shi'ar Emperor Daken and Catherine Summers. So, yeah, he exists. But there's a whole other generation of the Summers family tree still to cover, so next week, the many kids of Cyclops. Yes, really.